Okay, so next project today is we're going to be adding the
TireLink system.
TireLink system from LCI.
Telling the app basically what type of vehicle or trailer you have that you're connecting it to. So you have a double axle. Hit this one. So we're gonna go through and just do the trailers right now, but we can add in more for your truck or spare tire later.
Perfect. I think you set up to 20 sensors, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is gonna walk you through basically the pairing, but we're going to put the repeater that I installed in the back wall there. We want it to be in pair mode, so basically it knows it's supposed to be learning something initially.
Okay, perfect. So how do we do that?
Front, there'll be a pair mode button. You're gonna press and hold that.
Okay.
Until the status light comes on.
Got it.
Flashing rapidly. You can go on your phone. We're going to take our sensor and just go in the same order as the app.
Okay.
Front and roadside first.
Okay, you can probably just thread that further down if you want. There you go.
So it'll prompt you as you go through the first time and say unscrew all the sensors, making sure that nothing is installed first, or the rear stems. Continue. Screw the sensor onto the stem. Can take up to 90 seconds to learn it, so you don't have to do anything. Basically let it keep thinking, and then once it tells you it's complete, we'll hit finish and we'll go to the next sensor.
Okay.
Found.
There it goes. It only took about 15 seconds.
Yep. So then from here, this is where you can set your pressure and temperature ranges, and that's what's going to, if it falls outside of any of those ranges, that's what's going to alert you as you're going down the road.
Oh yeah, and that's so much more convenient than some of the other systems where it's only a couple buttons on a screen that you have to go through all these different kind of combinations to set all of that. So I like that.
So now we can change these numbers later to make it more specific to your tires and everything. But so we'll go to the next one. A rubber grommet that'll go on there too. Found, finished. Then we hit back, and then go around to the other side.
Extra axles, and he's already got extra juice brakes, hydraulic brakes, electric. That would be one thing. There would be two things that on your end that are quote unquote simple deals to do.
Okay, so what Tanya said is when you're driving down the road, it updates every minute on your tire status, and when you are sitting here stationary, it updates every 15 minutes. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if there's a rapid air loss, it will notify you when that rapid air loss is occurring, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that's the thing people ask, well, what if I just updated and then I have a rapid air loss or a tire that blows out or something? Well, because it's detecting the rapid airflow, it will send an alert when that's actually occurring on the specific tire.
Yep. The advantage of getting that either every minute or every 15-minute reading is so if you wanted to look at that, you could see if it's getting a little bit outside of the ranges you set and kind of prevent anything or add more air before it gets to that. If you
got it. All right, perfect. Thank you. That was a super simple install. It took less than 2 minutes really to do everything. I guess the lengthiest part of it is walking around to your tires and pulling off the old sensors.
Waiting for the app, basically.
Yeah, very good. So you can set it up for either a dual or a third axle or tandem or triaxle toy hauler or RV. Okay, so what are we looking at right here? This looks like an alert indicator.
Yeah, so this is another accessory that comes with TireLink. It gives you an option to not have to use your phone if you don't want to. So it's just a visual or audio indicator that'll let you know if your tires have reached or gone outside their range or the pressure that you set.
Good
so
deal.
you still have to program everything through the app, but once that's set up, once you pair this to the repeater, since the repeater is communicating with the app to receive that information, you're just basically giving one more line of communication. So it's looking at that info and it's going to let you know the same way the app would, just in a different method.
So you can keep that inside of your vehicle and go that way. Or maybe you're towing it with a different tow vehicle. Maybe you could just carry that with you so you can be notified, or it still works through the app.
You have to be within range.
Gotcha.
Of the
Okay.
repeater, yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, so that's what I mean though. So if I have a different tow vehicle and I'm hooked up, I'm going to have the same RV but a different vehicle towing it, then it would still notify me, so I can carry that with me. So that's pretty cool.
And then it comes with, if you wanted to mount it on the dash or the window.
Good thing is you have flexibility where you can put it, so that's really nice. All All right, so now that we have TireLink already set up, connected, everything's paired, best practices, right? So where is the ideal location for that? Can it get wet? Does it have to be inside? Can you mount it underneath the rig? I mean, what is ideally the best location for that control module right there, the TireLink module?
Yeah, all really good questions. So the repeater in the docking station itself, first and foremost, it has to be mounted like you see here, so it's vertical, it can't be laying flat.
Okay.
And that's gonna allow the signal to be sent between the One Control app and the repeater itself accurately.
Got it.
So it has to be mounted vertically just like you see here. Also, we're tying it directly into the battery, so that way when you're driving down the road, even if your battery disconnect is shut off, you still have power going to your repeater, so that way you know real time what your pressure and your temperature ranges are.
Okay, so real quick on that. So from a parasitic draw perspective, because that means it's always going to be pulling power from the battery, do you have any idea of how much power it pulls? Is it going to be very low amperage? I mean, do you run the risk of draining your house battery out if you haven't towed for a while? So is there a quick disconnect? Is there something essentially in line that you could unplug to prevent that from causing a parasitic draw if you're going to be in long-term storage?
You could, theoretically, you could take this off. Because that's all.
Got it.
This is what's sending the signal.
That's magnetic too, right? Or it just snaps on? Okay, with the little clips on the side.
So the probes that are on the docking station, when those are compressed, then it's going to send voltage to this. So this is what's going to draw the most amperage.
Oh, so it's like pulling the fuse, kind of. You pop that out and you really don't have anything else in there that's going to be pulling really any power. Okay, so good deal.
And then as far as placement, I always like to look for wherever the battery source is, just so that way it's less work for me or whoever's installing it. You don't have to run as long of wires to the battery. If you have, let's say, a travel trailer, it might be a slightly different setup just because you don't have the same convenience.
Yeah, and it's got to be mounted inside, right? It's not a waterproof device. So you would probably want to try to get it to your front pass-through storage, maybe up and in the bottom somehow. But yeah, that I could see it being a little bit more of a routing thing on a travel trailer than a fifth wheel, of course. All right, good deal. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so the next product that is being installed is going to be this Lippert Flow. This is a very cool and innovative solution for folks who may need to winterize their RV. Now again, down here in South Texas, we don't necessarily need to winterize our RVs very often. But this last winter, we absolutely needed to because we had a hard freeze down here in a way that typically most people up north only experience. So it's not to say you will never need something like this, or you may travel to an area that you need to winterize your unit, or you need to drain at least all the water out of your unit, and that's kind of what this is designed for. So we're going to take a deeper dive at looking at this as well as the process to install it.
So this compressor box, I'm going to install it back by where the water pump is, because this needs to be about within 12 inches or so of the water pump. But what we're going to do is cut into the existing freshwater line. So essentially, we'll have an air line coming out of here, and then we have fittings that come with the kit that make it really easy to tie it into the existing plumbing system on the RV. That's going to allow us to use this to push air through the water system. And then that's what's going to allow in those situations where you might find yourself needing to winterize your unit. Save a little bit of money by having this on your coach, being able to do it yourself. But it makes it really easy to get that whole process completed.
And this uses air to pump your system out, not antifreeze or anything like that, right? So that's another area that it can save you some money, especially if you're in an area where there's a rush on RV antifreeze whenever you have hard freezes coming, right? And you might not be able to physically get the product you need. So again, this uses air to kind of blow the line out, kind of like an air compressor.
Yeah. And that way there's no residual fluid kind of hanging out in there as far as mold or any buildup that might be in your water heater, things like that.
Got it. Okay, so one other thing real quick before she installs it is, how would you wire this in? What's the wiring process involved in connecting this?
So this is a 12-volt compressor. But
and you have a 110 version of this as well, right?
Yes, we do. Yeah,
okay.
If you're putting it on an RV, you really only need the 12-volt one.
Yeah.
So the kit will come with the wiring you need in order to hook it into the power supply. So it makes it really, really easy. On this side, what we're going to do is cut off this connector because we don't need that part. But on the side with the fuse, that's going to be our power wire. And we're going to tie it into this switch. So since this is going to be back behind the wall where it's not accessible, we're going to have the main power switch on the compressor on all the time. But then that way you have control from the switch. So when it's off, this isn't going to be running unless you activate the switch. That'll make it easier so you don't have to crawl back in there and
Okay, so a request that I've made, because you really can do it either way, is either wire directly to the battery, but if you do that, you're gonna have to keep an eye on your on-off switch, because if you keep it on and that switch is on, you will have a parasitic draw for your battery. I asked if we could have it wired to some 12-volt circuit coming from the disconnect. That way when I turn off the disconnect, I don't have any type of a parasitic draw, and we don't come back to a dead battery potentially. All right, so Tanya is in the belly of the Brookstone. Where is everything? I guess, well, I'll let you tell me what you did here.
Yeah. So I installed the flow compressor just right here on the ground, and the reason I chose this location is because it needs to be pretty close to the water pump, which is up here.
Those are my slinkies.
We want it to be before the water pump, so that way when you're using the flow system, you can get water, or excuse me, you can pump air through all of your different lines, but then also things like your water heater and your water pump to get everything cleaned out.
Got it.
So, nice thing about this compressor, if there's a leak or if it's building pressure, it's pretty loud.
Yeah.
So it comes with these anti-vibration washers to dampen that noise a little bit, so that way when it's vibrating it's not like extra obnoxious, but the fact that it's back here behind kind of this carpeted paneling and everything, that'll mute the noise a little bit, so you can still hear it, but it's not like blaringly loud.
Great.
Wired in the 12-volt source, wired it in from the converter, which is just up there in the massive wires. And then cut it into the line to put a switch over here so it's easier to access. So we have that master switch I mentioned earlier on the compressor itself. That's going to stay on. So now our main source of power is the switch at the board behind me.
Got it. And you have it wired into my kill switch as well.
Yes.
So the purpose of that again is if I turn off the kill switch, it will kill power going to this even if the switch on the wet panel is left on. Because if we don't do that, then this could cause a parasitic draw from the battery, which we don't want. Okay, so what else? So I guess if anything, can you explain specifically what it's doing when it's on?
So once the compressor's on, it's pushing air through your fresh water line, and it's going to build up to, or look to build up to 15 psi. So once it reaches that, by that time, once you go through the rest of the unit and you turn on all your faucets and you flush the toilet and you do all that stuff to get the water out during this whole process, it'll keep kind of readjusting and building up to that 15 psi throughout the whole process. And so you get all the way done, and that way you don't have any residual water left in your water lines.
Okay, so a good way of kind of explaining this to some folks who may be familiar with the technology is it's kind of like when people bought that little adapter for their air compressor but had to be really careful how much pressure they put through their plumbing. This is an onboard system. This is a system that's already in place, and you just manage with the little on-off button on the other side.
And the PSI isn't too large or obnoxious, I guess you could say it.
Just enough to pump the water out.
Yeah, but not risking damage to your plumbing.
All right, absolutely. And this is a product that's currently available.
Yep.
Outstanding. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. You can now get out of the front basement area. All right, so I have to give a huge shout out to these three individuals from Lippert. They came out from, Indiana, showed up at the Big Truck, Big RV Brookstone, and just laid into it. I mean, there's so much stuff. They are so familiar with the guts of my fifth wheel. It's crazy. Actually, well, Tanya's so familiar with the guts of my fifth wheel. But yeah, they've essentially done so many cool things, and I can't thank them enough for it. So let's quickly go down the line again, and if you can, introduce yourself and what you do with Lippert so folks know specifically what part of the organization you're in.
Yeah, so I'm Ryan Zerfus, and I am the Influencer Marketing Manager. So I have a really fun job of working with all of what we call our brand ambassadors, which are strategic partnerships with people really out in the social media space. People like Big Truck, Big RV, who have a great audience of people who love RVs and want to learn more. So I get to work with those people.
Perfect.
And I am Wes Brigham. I work for the electronics division, so primarily one control, but also any electronic controls for slides, leveling, etc.
Perfect.
And I'm Tanya, and I'm one of the consumer community coordinators, which is also code for I get to do fun stuff like come to do random installs for different people, but then also I'm a big part of the Scouts community on our Facebook page. So asking or helping people out with their technical questions, whether it's RV lifestyle related or Lippert products specifically, kind of a little bit of everything. So.
Absolutely. Well, I, again, really appreciate you guys coming out. We've done a lot of cool stuff to the RV. Guys, if you all are interested in knowing any more about this stuff, check out the Lippert Scouts Facebook page. There's a lot of great information on there. You're seeing a lot of people that are taking a look at Lippert in a different way, right? You guys have so many cool and innovative products, and you guys are constantly expanding and getting into more areas. So very, very cool. But again, big thank you to each and every one of you for coming out. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video series. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and I will try to link everything that was done in the description of all the videos associated with it so you know where to go, and maybe even put your Facebook page in there as well. Anyways, y'all have a great day. We'll talk to you again soon.